Welcome folks. In this video we are going to look at question 2 from biology paper 2 for the year 2023. The question reads, figure 2 represents a rhizopus growing on bread. Now before we dive in finding the answers, let's see what we can discuss here. So the first one, I would like us first we need to look at the type of kingdom where the rhizopus belongs to. So if you are given a question like that, if maybe the question is asked, what type of kingdom does a rhizopus belongs to? So this is a fungi kingdom. So it is under the fungi kingdom. And remember, we have 5 kingdoms according to biology. So out of those 5 kingdoms, we have the fungi kingdom. Then, apart from knowing the kingdom, what else can we look at here? Let's look at first nutrition. So if we look at nutrition, nutrition can be defined as the process by which living organisms obtain their food from the environment. So a rhizopus has its own nutrition, meaning it has its own ways by which it obtains its food. So the type of nutrition associated with a rhizopus is known as saprophytic. So we have saprophytic nutrition. Then under the same nutrition, you may encounter nutrient. A nutrient is any substance or material needed by the living organism for it to survive. For example, we have glucose is a nutrient, amino acids, these are also nutrients. Now away from the saprophytic nutrition, what else can we look at under saprophytic nutrition? These organisms that depend on saprophytic nutrition, the first one that we need to know, they do not carry the process of photosynthesis. Why? Because there is no chlorophyll there. Now, since they don't manufacture their own food, they depend on dead or decaying materials. So to summarize, we are saying saprophytic type of nutrition, it's a nutrition in which living organisms depends on dead and decaying materials. So the decaying materials in our case, or the material where the rhizopus grows, is known as a substrate. Or the substrate can be defined as the substance from where a rhizopus, in our case, is obtaining its nutrient. Now, in our case, the substrate here is the bread, because this is where the rhizopus has grown and this is where it is getting its nutrient for it to survive. Then, apart from the substrate, we need to know that there is also digestion under the rhizopus. Now, this digestion occurs on the outside of the living cells. Since it occurs on the outside of the living cells, the type of digestion is known as extracellular digestion. So if the question comes, why is it called extracellular digestion? The answer should be because it occurs on the outside of the living cells. Then if this digestion is called extracellular digestion, what do we call the enzymes that carry out this type of digestion? The enzymes are known as extracellular enzymes. So the word extracellular, it means outside. Then apart from having some ideas about the digestion, the other thing that we can look at is reproduction. How do rhizopus reproduce? So depending on the conditions available, a rhizopus can reproduce asexually. When can it reproduce asexually? Is when the conditions are favorable. So conditions are favorable whenever we have the temperature, when it's like it's hot. But in a case where the temperature, where it's cold, or in a case where the conditions are not favorable, the type of reproduction that can occur here is sexually reproduction. So under sexually is when the conditions are not favorable. Now, the other thing that we need to look at here, you are going to find out that under rhizopus, we are going to have spores. Spores can be considered as the sex cells because they are responsible for reproduction. Now, spores are used when the rhizopus is undergoing asexually reproduction. During sexual reproduction, the rhizopus uses what we call a zygospore. Now, where does a zygospore comes from? So whenever the nuclei join and develop a protective wall called a zygospore will be produced. So to summarize, what we are saying here is that a rhizopus can undergo sexually and asexually depending on the conditions. Whenever the condition or the conditions are favorable, then asexual reproduction will occur. Then the reverse is also true for sexual reproduction. During asexual reproduction, spores are used, while during sexual reproduction, zygospores are used. Then what happens during the obtaining of food from the substrate, which is the bread in our case? So the first step that happens is that the rhizoid, which is structure F, the rhizoid which grows on the substrate will secrete the extracellular enzymes. Then the extracellular enzymes will break down the complex food molecules into simpler ones. So the rhizopus can only use the food values when they are in simpler ones. For what reasons? For absorption and assimilation, like the way we have under human beings. So after the complex have been broken down into simpler ones, then there will be the movement of the smaller or simplest molecules will be absorbed into the rhizopus by the rhizoid. Now this is done by the active transport. So the diffusion kind of that we have here is all about the active transport. Then from what we have discussed here, let's see what we can handle the questions that comes here. So the first question is identify the parts labeled E. So E, if this is sporangium, then our E is sporangioform. Then our F is rhizoid. So rhizoids are root-like structures. Then what is our G? We have G, which is spores. Then we move on to question B1. Set the type of nutrition found in the organism in figure 2. So we said is saprophytic, because it depends on dead organisms. Then Roman number 2, explain how the nutrition identified in B1 is brought about. So the first one, we'll say the rhizoid which grows into the substrate will secrete extracellular enzymes these enzymes will break down complex food molecules into simpler ones. Then the rhizoid will absorb the digested food molecules. And we are saying after the digestion, we are expecting the active transport to move the materials from the outside organism to the inside of the cell. Then let's move on to question C. Describe the importance of the nutrition in the rhizopus to the environment. So maybe this one, let's not just look at the importance of nutrition, but let me see if I can just summarize the importance of a rhizopus. Why do we need rhizopus? So the first point that I would give is that the rhizopus helps to break down dead materials to avoid the accumulation. Then the second one, we can just look at this as the whole thing, like the fungi, the importance of a fungi, which is the kingdom. So we have other organisms that are found in the fungi kingdom, such as mushrooms, can be used as food. So we can say fungi can be used as food, e.g. mushrooms. Then fungi can be used in a nutrient cycle like carbon cycle and nitrogen cycle. Then some fungi can be used to make medicine. Like for those that may have fungal issues. Then it can also be used in baking and brewing. So here I wasn't focusing on this question, but I just wanted to break the importance of the fungi kingdom, of which among we have the rhizopus. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.